Happy Monday, everyone. I hope everyone had a great weekend. We're going to start off today by doing our sight words together. Okay. So, as you see the word on the screen, I want you to say the word out loud at your house. Family, have, off, school, cold, because, friends, no, picture, look. All right, we're going to do this again, and they're going to be in a random order this time. Off, have, family, school, look, because, cold, no, friends, picture. Good job. All right, let's look at our phonics pattern for this week. So this week we have a long vowel pattern. Consonant, vowel, consonant, vowel. So this week with our long vowel, it is when two vowels get together, it is like a game. When the first vowel speaks, it says the letter name. Okay, so here are some examples of that. We have rope. Okay, our first vowel is O and our second vowel is silent E. That E makes the O say its name, as in rope. Home. The O is our first vowel, the silent E is our second vowel, and the silent E makes O say its name, home. The same goes for poke and for cone. Now we're going to look at one of our grammar skills for this week. Our first grammar skill that we are going to look at this week are prefixes. What is a prefix? A prefix is a group of letters added to the beginning of a root word to change the meaning of that word. So, the prefix we're going to be looking at this week is prefix dis, D-I-S. So, what does prefix dis mean? The prefix dis means not or opposite of. Pause your video and repeat to yourself what prefix dis means. We're going to look at some words that have the prefix dis and talk about what they mean. For example, we have the word dishonest. Dishonest means not honest. Dislike means to not like. Disagree means to not agree. Now for the next three words, I want you to pause your video and say the meaning of the words with the prefix dis. What does distrust mean? Pause your video and say out loud what you think the meaning of distrust is. If you said it means to not trust, great job. Do the same for disappear. Pause your video and see if you can find the meaning of disappear. If you said that disappear means to not appear or not able to be seen, awesome job. Last one, discomfort. Pause your video and see if you can find the meaning of discomfort. If you said not to be comfortable, great job. Today for our story, we are going to look and read a story together called Owl Moon. But before we read Owl Moon, I want us to look at the three parts of our story. Every story has three parts. We have the beginning, the middle, and the end. The beginning of our story tells us how the story starts, about the characters, and the setting of our story. The middle of our story tells us the problem and gives us the details of the problem. And the end of our story tells us how our problem is solved and gives us more detail as to how our story ends. So as we read Owl Moon, I want us to think about the beginning, the middle, and the end of our story. Think about how your story starts. Who are our characters and where is our story taking place? In the middle of our story, ask yourself, is there a problem? What's happening in my story? And at the end, think to yourself how the problem is solved. What details tell me how our story ends? So today, we are going to be reading Owl Moon. It was late one winter night, long past my bedtime, when Pa and I went owling. There was no wind, the trees stood as still as giants, and the moon was so bright the sky seemed to shine. Somewhere behind us a train whistle blew, long and low, like a sad, sad song. I could hear it through the woolen cap Pa had pulled down over my ears. A farm dog entered the train, and then a second dog joined in. They sang out, trains and dogs, for a real long time, and when their voices faded away, it was as quiet as a dream. We walked on towards the woods, Pa and I. Our feet crunched over the crisp snow, and little gray footprints followed us. Pa made a long shadow, but mine was short and round. I had to run after him every now and then to keep up, and my short round shadow bumped after me. But I never called out. If you go owling, you have to be quiet. That's what Pa always says. I had been waiting to go owling with Pa for a long, long time. We reached the line of pine trees, black and pointy against the sky, and Pa held up his hand. I stopped right where I was and waited. He looked up, as if searching the stars, as if reading a map up there. The moon made his face into a silver mask. Then he called, "Hoo, hoo, 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 hoo," the sound of a great horned owl. "Hoo, hoo, 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 hoo." Again he called out, and then again. After each call he was silent, and for a moment we both listened. But there was no answer. Pa shrugged, and I shrugged. I was not disappointed. My brothers all said sometimes there's an owl, and sometimes there isn't. We walked on. I could feel the cold, as if someone's icy hand was palmed down on my neck, and my nose and the tops of my cheeks felt cold and hot at the same time. But I never said a word. If you go owling, you have to be quiet and make your own heat. We went into the woods. The shadows were the blackest things I had ever seen. They stained the white snow. My mouth felt furry, for the scarf over it was wet and warm. I didn't ask what kinds of things hide behind black trees in the middle of the night. If you go owling, you have to be brave. Then we came to a clearing in the dark woods. The moon was high above us. It seemed to fit exactly over the center of the clearing, and the snow below it was whiter than the milk in a cereal bowl. I sighed, and Pa held up his hand at the sound. I put my mittens over the scarf, over my mouth, and listened hard. And then Pa called, "Hoo, hoo, 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 hoo." I listened and looked so hard my ears hurt and my eyes got cloudy with the cold. Pa raised his face to call out again, but before he could open his mouth, an echo came threading its way through the trees. "Hoo, hoo, 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 hoo." Pa almost smiled. Then he called back, "Hoo, hoo, 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 hoo," just as if he and the owl were talking about supper or about the woods or the moon or the cold. I took my mitten off the scarf off my mouth, and I almost smiled too. The owl's call came closer. from high up in the trees on the edge of the meadow. Nothing in the meadow moved. All of a sudden, an owl's shadow, part of the big tree shadow, lifted off and flew right over us. We watched silently with heat in our mouths, the heat of all those words we had not spoken. The shadow hooted again. Pa turned on his big flashlight and caught the owl just as it was landing on a branch. For 1 minute, 3 minutes, maybe even 100 minutes, we stared at one another. Then the owl pumped its great wings and lifted off the branch like a shadow without a sound. It flew back into the forest. "Time to go home," Pa said to me. I knew then I could talk. I could even laugh out loud. But I was a shadow as we walked home. When you go owling, you don't need words, or warmth, or anything but hope. That's what Pa says. The kind of hope that flies on silent wings under a shining owl moon. The end.